This is a fairly straightforward matter for your consideration because the rules are abundantly plain. First of all, Officer G has served the state police for a number of years. He was and is a disabled, honorably discharged veteran of the United States Army, having served in Afghanistan. In May 27th of 2022, he received a notice indicating that he was being placed on paid administrative leave as a result of some alleged criminal investigation by the Office of Veterans Affairs, which, so you know, resulted in absolutely nothing as it relates to Officer G. At that time, he was required under Rule 12.4 of the State Police Commission rules to be advised of the intended action, the reasons therefore, and an opportunity to respond, none of which occurred. Instead, he was simply placed on administrative leave. And in fact, when you look at the letter, which is in the actual appeal, which I offer file and introduce into the record of this proceeding, there is no notice of the intended action to be taken by state police. And aside from a reference to a criminal investigation such as it was, there is no notice of the intended rules or the potential rules that Officer G was accused of potentially violating. That is fatal and was fatal on May 27, 2022. We fast forward. Under the Louisiana State Police Commission rules, you have 60 days to conclude the investigation of any state trooper. Although you guys have opted out of the Police Officer Bill of Rights, you do have a similar requirement. And your requirement is again found in 12.4. The 60 days from even generously saying May 27, 2022 would have expired, unless my math is really bad, by July 25th, 2022, or 26th, give or take a day. Nothing happened. Officer G was not issued any kind of notice of intended disciplinary action at that time. Instead, the next notification received by him was on August 10th, 2022, also a letter which you have in the record. At that time, he received a letter saying that, quote, if I determine you should not be returned to duty, I intend to place you on enforced leave, and specifically said Louisiana State Police is, quote, continuing its investigation at that time, greater than 60 days after the initial notification, as required under 12.4. What didn't happen at that point in time was no further communications with Officer G, I believe, until 2024. In the interim, Officer G had to come back here and ask this commission to require state police to return him to duty, which happened. However, in that interim period of time, Officer G exhausted every single piece of leave that he had and was on unpaid leave status the entire time for about a 2-year period of time. I know state police argued in their brief, well, he wasn't prejudiced because he got paid. Well, he got paid his time that he earned. And when that was exhausted, nada. So the problem that we have is state police now comes in 2024 and decides, as a result of some sort of media article, that they need to now do something more about Officer G.
News 2 at 6 o'clock, a state trooper continues to collect a check from taxpayers.
He is on leave, paid to stay away from the office while he is under federal investigation. Sources say the Department of Justice is looking into allegations of fraud. The investigative unit and Chris Nakamoto here now with details.
Michael Sylvia, Trooper Nicholas G. has been with state police for 15 years and earns approximately $77,000 per year. Tonight, state police confirmed he's been on paid leave now for a year, and there's no time frame on when that might end.
This is Nicholas G., a 15-year veteran trooper with Louisiana State Police, part of the beleaguered Troop F. Last May, state police say he was placed on forced leave after they were made aware he was being investigated by the United States Department of Justice. Our sources say it has to do with some type of federal benefit fraud, and G is a cooperating witness in the case.
The State Police Commission, which regulates discipline for all Louisiana state troopers in the state, says Nicholas G. is on active duty. But there's a discrepancy. Louisiana State Police tells us he was placed on leave a year ago.
Being on leave means G is ineligible for several types of outside work, including off-duty security jobs commonly performed by law enforcement officers.
We're not able to get in touch with G. Sylvia?
So what do? They call him in sometime in July of 2024. They make him sign a document on July 16th that says, we were actually suspending our investigation all these last 2 years And so you need to agree that we had suspended it and give us even more time. Officer G, who by then, by order of this commission, had been returned to his job, hastily signed it as he had no other alternative. But the problem is your rules do not allow somebody to come back and retroactively suspend some sort of investigatory period. You just don't. And so what happened is at some point in time thereafter, August 10th, after the expiration of the 60 days, Officer G was then forced to burn all of his leave, every single dime, penny, and nickel of it. And only until this commission ordered him back to work February 15th did he actually return to work. And so I will also note, as I pointed out in my filings with this commission, even though he was ordered back February 15th, he wasn't even returned until February 23rd. I submit to you this matter is ripe for summary disposition. It is ripe because there have been clear violations of your rules. The rules exist to protect the civil service status of state police troopers like Officer G, disabled veterans who have served this country and the people of this state. I ask that this madness, and I hate to use that word madness, be over. It has been 3 years of this man's life, and every dime he earned in accrued leave is gone. He was disenfranchised as a state police trooper, and all he wants to do is to be returned to duty. Thank you.
Good morning. LSP respectfully requests that this commission deny Mr. G's motion for summary disposition. When LSP received notice on May 26, 2022, that Mr. G was the subject of a federal criminal investigation, Captain Eric Cuenca verbally advised him that he was being placed on administrative leave pending investigation, which also occurred on May 26, 2022 at 5 p.m. LSP acted in accordance with the Commission's Rule 12.4a. The letter not only confirmed Mr. G's verbal notification from Captain Cuenca, the letter advises Mr. G that he's being placed on administrative leave pending investigation because of allegations that he received federal funding of fraudulent means. Finally, this letter notifies Mr. G that his continued presence on the job or performance of his duties reasonably possess a significant hazard or danger to the general health or safety or the efficiency of public service. When LSP received notice on July 2nd, 2024, that the U.S. Attorney's Office was not pursuing charges related to this ongoing criminal federal investigation of Mr. G, LSP reinitiated the administrative investigation. Mr. G received written notice in compliance with Rule 1218. Every time Mr. G faced an adverse employment action, he was given notice. LSP complied with the Commission's rules. Mr. G's motion should be denied by this Commission because LSP followed the rules.
First of all, so we are abundantly clear, my client was never arrested, cited, or issued a summons or anything. Secondarily, the notion that he, quote, received notice all along is it's inaccurate. If there was a notice in November of 2022 to my client about you're now on forced compensatory leave, it doesn't exist. It hasn't been filed by the state police in this matter, and my client did not receive it. And more importantly, by the time we even got to August 10th, the 60 days were gone. And at no time did my client receive any notification of this quote-unquote alleged suspension, which they're saying was some sort of computer entry. 3 years later, almost 3 years later, they're coming into this commission saying, well, we had a computer entry. We never told Officer G about that. We burned all of his time. We realize he's never been criminally prosecuted. He was never indicted, never arrested, and never issued a summons. But now we are firing him years later. For the reasons we submitted and those which are contained in your rules. Entirely, not omitting the last sentence of 12.4a, but all of your rules. Summary disposition is warranted. This is a man who is a disabled, honorably discharged veteran who served the people of the state of Louisiana. He should be returned to work. Thank you.
And then I noticed in the appeal pack, there was a letter from Mr. G's lawyer dated July, I think it was July 15th, or July 10th of 2024, an email from Harry Daniels to Mr. G advising him that Allison, who is the U.S. prosecutor, indicated that the state police headquarters is aware that the federal government will not be prosecuting you or anyone else. And that, to me, seemed to line up with the date that state police says, which was only a few days before July 2nd of 24, that it learned
Yes,
that there would be no further
yes,
in action taken with respect to that investigation.
yes. And I mean, the reasons are unknown why they chose not to prosecute, but they made the choice not to prosecute him.
I also want to make clear that your rules exist for a very important reason, and that is to protect the people who serve this state. What happened was, there was a press story about it, and they freaked out and decided they had to do something at that point in time.
Let you address one document that I brought up, the voluntary extension of time to complete the administrative investigation that was signed by Mr. G on July 6th. You want to address that at all?
Yes,
I
sir.
didn't bring it up, so I'll give you a chance.
Yes, sir. And as I pointed out in our brief and in our thing, he was under duress at the time, complete duress. Because this thing, as far as he knew, was over. He had been back to work since February of 2024. Now, let me ask you something. If this situation was the investigation, the criminal matter, the superintendent of state police thinks he's a threat and a harm to everybody else, then how come you had to order him back to work in February of 2024? Let me ask that question.
Well, let me pose another question back. You say he's under duress. I mean, is Mr. G, you're going to testify to what?
Mr. G can't be here today because he has nothing in terms of income. He's trying to scrap and save as much as he can at a
How
job.
do we conclude that there was some duress? How do we not take the document at face value without something, evidence to the
Well,
contrary?
apparently you're taking the assertion by state police that there's a July 1, 2022 computer entry at face value. It's the same thing.
We're now back in regular session.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the motion for summary disposition be denied.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote.
Jared Ricky.
Yes.
Mark Cole.
Yes.
Michael DeBose.
Yes.
Jim Kowalski.
Yes.
Ross Bourgeois.
Yes.
Stephen Gidry.
Yes.
And Matthew Mazzarella.
I'll abstain, and the motion passes.